Minister, there is a real cost of living crisis right across this country as energy bills have skyrocketed. They put real pressure on workers and families right throughout the state. Now, last night your government rejected a Sinn Féin motion that would have given real relief to households. It would have reduced the cost of home heating oil and would have prevented you from increasing it by imposing additional carbon tax that you plan to do on Sunday. We also sought to prevent you from your proposed ban on selling turf from the 1st of September. And despite the huffing and puffing from Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil ministers and indeed backbenchers, they dutifully rode in behind you and your party last night to prevent sense prevailing. And I must say there's a notable absence from those huffing and puffing TDs in the chamber this morning. They're happy to go on the local radios, Minister. They're happy to give quotes to the local newspapers, but when push comes to shove, they fall into line with the Green Party, with your out-of-touch proposals in respect of home heating oil and carbon tax. In my view, it is political cowardice of the highest order. Now, turf has been one of the only forms of heating not to see prices spiral in the last number of months. Yet you still plan to punish individuals, to punish communities who rely on turf from September. So instead of introducing measures to support communities in transitioning away from this form of heating in a way that is fair and sustainable, what you plan is a ban. Ill-thought-out policies like yours, this proposal, what it does, it really damages environmental protection because it alienates communities. We know that the days of fossil fuels are coming to an end. We all recognise in this House the need for climate action. But the way that you're doing it is causing deep anger and deep upset and deep resentment in communities right across the state. Minister, you should not naively believe that a ban on turf is a solution, because it is not. 4% of households right across the state depend on burning turf as the main energy source to heat their homes. That rises to 9% in rural communities. In some counties, it is over 30%. These communities need to be supported instead of facing the punishment that you're dishing out when there is no realistic alternative for them to heat their homes, to keep their families warm and safe. So where, Minister, is the just transition in telling these households who rely on burning turf as their main source of heating their homes that it is to be banned from September of this year? So, Minister, after weeks of chaos, confusion and contradiction, what is your position on the turf ban? Or do you now accept that the turf ban idea was a daft idea and it now needs to be ditched?
Thank you, Deputy Minister.
My view is we have to stop the 1,300 deaths that are occurring every year. From the European Environmental Protection Agency's assessment, that's the level of excess mortality because of the severe problem we have with air pollution. You think it's a red herring, Deputy? It's not for the 1,300 families who lose their loved ones. And we've shown in the past we can actually tackle this. In Dublin, when we introduced the smoke ban, we saved about 350 lives a year. We need to do that all over the country. The Asthma Society, it's not coming from ourselves, but they make it clear the burning of solid fuels, smoky fuels, is the centre to a lot of the problems that our children have with asthma. Are we to do nothing about asthma? Are we to ignore the heart surgeons and cardiologists across the country and the respiratory disease experts who say that this does have to be tackled? It would be so easy to walk away and say, no, we won't do that, because it is difficult. But what number of deaths should we tolerate? What should we do in ignoring that reality across the country? I don't believe we should ignore it, and we won't. This government will act and will deliver practical measures that are not there to punish anyone, that are part of a way of actually managing this so that we can protect people from fuel poverty and protect lives at the same time. And I'm very confident we can and will do that. And you asked about the vote last night. There was another vote last night that I think was very fundamental and important. Because what happened last night is Sinn Féin changed their policy. To date, you've been saying we wouldn't accept the increase in the carbon tax, but we would retain the revenue that's already coming from it. Last night, you voted with Deputy McGrath and his colleagues in saying you now want to scrap it altogether.
Is that a crime? You voted against
Please.
You voted
Minister, without interruption.
with the rural deputies, and you voted.
The Minister
Well,
without interruption.
do you disagree with the rural deputies then? So you are going to retain the carbon tax.
We're not going to increase it. It's clear.
Okay, so you're retaining the carbon tax we have because you recognise that what this government is doing is correct and right. Using the revenues from that. Well, you just said you will retain the carbon tax. You haven't been saying that in public yesterday. On the radios across the country, I think people should know that Sinn Féin is standing up for the carbon tax. And on heating oil. On heating oil. So that's Sinn Féin position. You're in favour of the carbon tax because you recognise, I presume, as we do, that the revenue that it brings is the best way of protecting our people from fuel poverty.
Please.
Well, no, I don't think you speak for Sinn Féin, Deputy McGrath.
I speak myself.
And sometimes in the last... Well, the question is, I, like you, believe we should have a carbon tax because it helps us raise the revenue to make the switch. Turf. We need to tackle smoky fuels. The only way you can tackle smoky fuels, the coal, the wet wood and the peat and other products which are causing these deaths, is to have a regulatory system, as recommended by the Attorney-General, where we attack a variety of different fuels, all the smoky fuels. We, in doing that, recognise it's not an outright ban, because there are instances, and there's a tradition, and there's issues in our country where people have had access to their own bog, cutting turf, sharing with neighbours, and of course we're going to provide for that. But what we will do is we will start saving those 1,300 lives. We will not walk away, as two previous governments have done, as a series of ministers have done. We will do what needs to be done while maintaining and helping our people through fuel poverty, but not ignoring the health issue.
Thank you, Minister.
Not ignoring the loss of life. That would be reckless and disregard of our duty.
Minister, I'm aware that you've never spent a day in the bog, I hear from media reports, but if you understood families who rely on turf and burning turf, it is the cheapest form of fuel at this point in time. You talk about excess deaths, and every excess death is one too many, but let me tell you about excess deaths. 2,800 people in this state die of fuel poverty each year. Each year. Now, you want to ban people in rural communities, in my communities, my neighbour, from being able to purchase a load of turf come September, and they don't have any other source of heating. They don't have any other source of heating. So tell me, Minister, will you applaud a just transition? Where is the justice in that? This is a daft idea that has been recognised right across the political divide, that you are out of touch with the realities of people at this point in time. If you want to ban smoky coals, ban smoky coal. There's no opposition to that. But let's be clear, do not ban the people who need to rely on turf until alternatives are there. We know fossil fuels are coming to an end. We know people going to the bog is coming to an end. It is a practice that will phase out. But can you... Well, I'll tell you something. You come down to my parish. And you tell my neighbours to say, how are you going to heat your homes come September? How are you going to heat your homes come the winter? How are you going to keep hot water and your family safe? Because that's what you want to do.
Please.
And I'll just finish on this point. Minister Ryan, please clarify in detail what is the proposal at this point in time in relation to the turf ban.
Thank you.
Firstly, your statistics, I understand, are from some 25 years ago, but taking
No, not true. Not true.
Take them. There is a correlation. Some of those figures include the very same people I'm concerned about, because the deaths due to air quality are connected also to poverty. It tends to be the same people. So actually, the two issues go together. Do Sinn Féin accept the legal advice that we've received?
Please answer the question in terms of turf. Do you know what you're planning in terms of turf?
Do Sinn Féin accept the legal advice? And if not, what's your solution to the problem?
What are you planning to do?
And secondly,
do you know what you're planning to do?
What I'm planning to do is try and work with Sinn Féin to convince you up north.
Do you have a plan?
To convince Sinn Féin in the north to introduce the same regulations
from buying turf or not?
And not, if I can finish the point. One of the things...
Sit down.
Don't shout down the Minister.
Coyle, I do have to be able to speak.
Please. No, wait now. Sorry, Minister. Can we have a little silence and can we have a little bit of respect for each other? Let's hear the Minister out.
One of the things we need is an all-island approach. Because one of the problems with coal we have is that it's coming across the border. And there's no regulations, the same type of regulations we're looking at here in the north. Your manifesto in the Assembly elections next week says nothing about air quality, as if it isn't an issue.
The House wants to know what your plan is on
Why is it you as a party which talked to the last election talked about change? Why is it that any time we talk about environmental change, you say no?
Time is up now.
Why is it that the change to treat these public health issues are the critical problem?
Thank you, Minister.
My plan is to work on an all-Ireland basis and to stop having this north-south disconnect so that the pollution from smoky fuels coming across the border stops being something that kills people on both sides of the border.
Please. Look, this sort of behaviour is unseemly. Can we please conduct ourselves with a little bit of order? Deputy Batchik, please.